Hello, and welcome to another episode of Vibrant Legacy Wellness Podcast. Today we have a very special guest and my friend in real life, Ashley. She is a serial entrepreneur, a social worker, an author, a food critic, and a mother. So, Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself and then what we're going to talk about today.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you so very much for having me on your platform. It is an honor. A little bit about me. I have been in social work for about 3 years now. I've been working with human beings and working with people that I love for at least 20 of those years. I function as a food critic, fairly new, and I'm an author as well. I love to write, and my passion is writing about self help, positive mental health. I love writing about things that encourage other people. So that's what I'm about. Anything about encouraging someone else, that is my passion and my goal in life. So that's a bit about me.
Before we get started, I just want you to talk about your book a little bit. Ashley's book is coming out sometime around October this year. It's going to be her first book. So just tell us a little bit about that before we get started.
Okay, so a quick synopsis of my book is called The Queen's Handbook, and it's literally about self esteem, confidence, encouragement. It's full of affirmations and tips on how to maintain day to day life with a positive attitude, with a positive mental health. And it's an affirmations book more than anything. It's to encourage and inspire you to be your best self, and it's for women, but men can read it too.
I
That's what I
love
wanted to
it.
write about.
I love it. And in the future, are you planning on having a men's edition?
Absolutely. King's edition.
Awesome. A King's edition. I love it. Okay, so today we're actually Ashley and I are gonna have a double conversation. So first we're gonna start off by talking about positive mental health, and then we want to talk a little bit about spirituality. So um, tell us a little bit about just positive mental health and what that means. And I know that you work in social work, but I think that when we were talking, you were telling me about positive mental health more along the lines of just everyday life, right?
Yes. First of all, people take physical health seriously, right? But people don't take mental health as seriously as they should. That's why I'm here. I'm here to provide a safe space. I want to be able to provide facts and just knowledge about mental health in general and how to maintain a positive mental health day to day. That's very important because in my personal life, I've struggled with different areas of my mental health, and I wanted to inspire other people to let them know that you can get through it, you know? So that's very important to me. And I just wanted to be able to provide some tips and tools on how to move forward every day because we know it can get hard.
I think especially I, and I don't think we talk about this as much as we should, post COVID. I think COVID taught us a lot about mental health. And I think even just returning to the workplace,
Oh
we
my
are
God.
seeing the difference. And
Yeah.
even for me on a personal level, I feel like my mental health was so great when I was during COVID. And I know that sounds horrible, but I felt so much more relaxed. I felt like I got more done. And then it was just, as soon as I returned to the office, I felt the pressure and the stress.
That's
And
literally me.
is that what happened?
Yes.
And so I feel like when we returned back to just the office, that environment, it kind of put a toll on us, but I think we were so much more aware. So
Yeah,
I think that aspect changed how we view mental health.
it did. First of all, when COVID happened, that changed everybody's world. Whether you were an introvert or an extrovert, it changed everybody's world. So we all had to learn how to function again in society once COVID happened. Um, for me, I think my mental health deteriorated during that time frame because I was constantly in the house. I was not around people. I wasn't socializing. So that caused me to feel a bit of depression, you know? And I had to figure out ways to navigate through that and get back into society again, going back to work again, getting back into the office again. And even that was hard because you get used to working remotely, being by yourself. I had to adjust from being an extroverted person to introvert. Now I'm introverted back to extrovert. And nobody gave us a manual on how we're supposed to maintain. So that was an adjustment.
Do you think there's a difference in how people's mental health has been, was impacted during COVID and now for people who are introverts versus extroverts? Because I am an introvert. I know a lot of people don't believe me, but I am. So for me, my experience during COVID was so different from other people because I was like, finally, I feel like I can breathe. I don't feel drained
Yeah.
after work. But then I feel like it was extra hard for me to go back because I felt extra because I was out of the office for over a year. And so I
Yes.
felt like, I mean, most of us were, but I actually had a little bit of an extended time just because of
Mhm.
different circumstances. So everybody else was back in the office and I was still working remotely. So when I came back, I had to get adjusted to them being adjusted. And I was the person in charge. So they were used to me not being there all day long. And so they had to adjust in a different way too. And I think it was just really, I feel like we had two very distinct groups, of how even for students, like example, my child homeschools and she homeschools online. So for her,
Mhm.
nothing changed, because she's already online, interacting with students online. The only thing that changed is that she didn't get to interact outside of the classroom. So I did see the impact of that on her. But then watching some of my friends' kids who are not used to being at home, I could see the struggles that they were having.
Yes. Literally, they had to the children I feel for the most because they were literally stripped from what they knew and placed into a whole different environment versus your child where she was already dealing with remote. And so that was a different battle for her. But the kids that were in school and they were taken away, then they were put back in school. That is a struggle.
Hmm.
That's a struggle to be able to maintain your emotions and figure out how to navigate and pass school and get good grades. And we were just remote for over a year. So I
And I
definitely
mean,
relate to them.
yes, and think about how hard it was as an adult. It had to be 10 times harder as a child?
Yeah, it makes it hard for me to even complain because the kids had it worse than we did,
Yes, for
to be
sure. And I
quite
think
honest.
that, but I think that also that time frame, as I said earlier, I think it reframed how we see and view mental health because I don't know if this was a common thing at your job, but I noticed that when I returned to work, I noticed just people paying more attention to their mental health, being more aware of their mental health, but not only their mental health, I noticed the overall difference. I think before COVID, I don't remember people just going out and taking walks, right? But that became a normal part of our thing. So when we returned to work, everybody would be like, you know how you have breaks, but no one ever takes their breaks? When we came back, people were like, it's my 15-minute break. I'm going to go for a walk around, whatever. And
This couldn't
that
be
was
more
something
true.
that we didn't do before. And I just
Mhm.
feel like we were more people were paying more attention to their mental health, their physical health, their overall wellness. I noticed people's diets changed and they were eating less
Yes,
junk food. I noticed the whole difference. And even when people like that calling out sick mentality change, like people were like, I don't feel good, so I'm gonna go home. I don't
yes,
feel good, so I'm
and
gonna
more
call
mental
out.
health days.
Hmm.
Mental health days became more of a thing after COVID, for sure.
Yes. And I just feel like even now, I feel like it almost feels like we're being pushed back into that toxic way that we existed. And I feel like it's also a little bit generational, right? We have some of the older generations that are like, oh, just work. And then we have like kind of like millennials on, I would say younger Gen Xers and below, like, they're all like, I don't need to
No.
do that with my life, right? But I
Yes.
feel like some of the older generation, I think, get it because just their experience and what happened to them during COVID. But I see the shift in just the attitude of I could do that, but I'm not going to overwork myself to do nothing. I'm not getting anything extra for it. So why am I going to overwork? And I think people see it very differently, you know?
Mm. Oh, yeah, I agree. 100%.
Okay, so you were going to give us some skills for day-to-day life.
Okay. So I'm giving skills based off my experience directly because like I said, I do deal with different mental health ailments in my day-to-day life. And this is what has worked for me, and I hope that it works for you. So my first thing is I have a success jar, and I wrote this on a good day. And so this jar is filled with affirmations, it's filled with tips. The affirmations have examples. You are a great person. You are doing a great job. Keep trying your best. Anything motivational I wrote in this success jar. And anytime that I'm having a bad moment or a bad day or I feel less than adequate, I go in that jar and I pull a little sheet out. It's on a sticky note, literally. And I read it. And I sometimes I have to pull multiple until I feel better. And that is what's worked for me as far as affirmations. Daily meditation. Daily meditation is imperative. And in order to maintain positive mental health, you want to make sure that your mind is clear and that you're being mindful of the thoughts that you have and going through your mind every day. Because overall, we have at least 60,000 thoughts going through our minds every day. How many of those thoughts are negative? We have to filter that. And then this is a new tip that I'm working on. Anytime that you have a negative thoughts, you have to challenge that thought immediately. For example, yes, clock it. For example, if you're having body esteem issues and you look in the mirror and you say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so fat today." Challenge that thought. Why do you feel fat today? That's not the truth. That's not the truth. You have to literally challenge yourself to revamp the way that you've been thinking all these years or feeling that you're not good enough or strong enough. Revamp that thought because you are good enough and you are strong enough. And sometimes it takes that reminder.
I love that. Something my daughter and I started doing, is something similar to that. Whenever she says something negative about herself, she has to say three positive things about herself.
I love that. It's like a compliment sandwich.
Yes. Well, no, because the compliment sandwich doesn't have a compliment in the middle.
Right? I love that. Okay, so every time something is negative that's being said, you have to come and combat it with three positive thoughts.
When she says something bad about herself, because she's in that
Yeah.
those teenage years, and teenagers, self-esteem, like, do you remember when you were a teenager? What was your self-esteem like? Ooh,
Oh, it was in the trash and it carried into my
exactly.
20s.
Exactly. And we carry these beliefs with us. These are like false beliefs, limited beliefs, and we carry these
Mhm.
false truths as reality, and then it becomes who we are. And so whenever she says something negative about herself, she has to immediately say three positive things about herself. And
I
she does
absolutely
not
love
like it, but I
it.
noticed that once we started doing it, I noticed that she's like, we're at the point now, we've been doing this for over a year. She barely ever says anything negative about herself.
Yeah, because she already knows.
But I don't even just see that I also see the difference in how she carries herself. She's
The
more
confidence.
confident, because you're not allowed to repeat something like whatever, like let's say you say, especially teenagers, especially teenage girls, I think, but teenagers in general, they always have body image things.
Oh
So
my gosh,
let's say
yes.
that she says, "Oh, I'm too fat for this." So now you have to say three positive things. But then let's say she says it again later. You have to give me three positive things that you didn't give me last time.
I love it. I love it.
And
That's
so,
6 things, okay?
mhm,
I love it. At that age, at that teenage age, they need as much encouragement and motivation and positive methods that they can get so they can carry them into adulthood because we don't realize how important it is to have a decent self-esteem while we're young like that. It really affects you until adulthood. I'm learning that now. Instilling positivity into your kids, that stuff carries. It carries.
yes.
My daughter is
And
only one, but I'm learning that like you have to encourage them. Anything they do that's good, you encourage them. So
especially for like we grew up, before we grew up in analog, so we remember life before the internet.
yes.
And there's such a difference, like the negativity and the bullying and the body imaging and the body shaming, it's so different. Though, like Bullying was bad when we were younger, but it's nothing like now. The way that
Oh,
you
they're
can
crazy
become a
now.
meme, yeah, it's crazy. You become a
Yes.
meme, and then now it was something that you weren't even thinking about, and now you're thinking about it because now it's a meme, or
Yes.
now everybody's talking about it.
Yes. And not to be extra dark, but we are in an epidemic right now. Like we have so many teenagers out here and actually teens
Don't say the word, just say unaliving.
unaliving. Yes. Dealing with ideation, even dealing with ideation at nine,
Yes.
10 years old. Why are you dealing with these thoughts at that age? It's because
Sorry,
of
I go ahead.
go, yeah, finish.
No, 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 go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's because of the bullying. It's because of feeling like they're less than and not getting that encouragement that they're supposed to get at home, and it's leading to a whole epidemic for real.
But not only teens, even in preteens, like even younger children,
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
we're seeing
saying.
it a
Like
lot.
9, 10, they're babies. Like I couldn't
Hmm.
imagine. I couldn't imagine being 8 or 9 years old dealing with ideation or even not wanting to be here is insane at that age. That is
Yes.
scary. And it's really up to us to provide a safe space for those kids. Well, I know we can't save everyone, but I feel like if we all get together and work together, we can help these little kids, the youth really. That's
And
that's
and
what's most important.
and being aware of exposure because let me tell
Hmm.
you, let me quick side story here, something that I discovered. So my daughter and her friend's a couple years older than her. They've been friends since they were little. I'm friends with
Yeah.
their parents. I went to high school with them. And we both, me and his mom discovered at the same time. We were both horrified. So it was something that we thought was safe. It was on YouTube. We let our kids watch it. It's for kids. And I always watch the first couple of episodes to see if it's safe. She does the same thing. It was when they were younger. They were much younger. Neither one of them were in double digits yet. They're both little kids, right?
Hmm.
And just knowing that these type of channels are still around horrifies me. So we both watched the beginning, and then one day I just came in because I heard something and it didn't quite sound right. And I came in and watched it, and it's the same channel that she was watching. So the beginning of the channel was all positive, and as you get closer to the end, it starts really teaching them negativity. It was encouraging actually self-harm.
I heard about
And I
these
was
videos on YouTube.
shocked.
I heard about
Yes, I
these.
was
Yes.
so shocked because I was like, did you watch a different channel? And she was like, no. So then I contacted, my friend, and she was like, I just discovered that I was about to call you. So we both, I guess they were both in the same episode, and we were both just so distraught because it was really encouraging self-harm.
Yes. And they snuck it in there. That's what you have
Yes,
to be mindful of what your kids watch. You have to. Hmm.
really, it's
And not even that, like y'all were definitely doing y'all's part as parents, making sure that they were watching the right things. They literally snuck that in there.
they really did because and
They
then
snuck
even after
that.
that, I watched a couple of episodes and I was like, these episodes are fine. And then I watched a couple more and I was like, oh wait, but what's this? It's not even every episode. So it really is like a sneaky tactic. And it's
That's
just so
oh my God,
terrifying.
it's scary. Yes. Yes.
Just terrifying.
Hmm.
Um, oh, sorry, I told you earlier, we have to be careful what we say, just so you know, on YouTube because
Yes.
censor.
The
So
censor.
we say unalive.
Thank you
So
for catching me. Thank you for
no
that.
problem. Um, I also want to talk about staying positive and toxic positivity. I talk about toxic positivity all the time because toxic positivity has more than one aspect. And I really liked what you said earlier. We were kind of talking before the show, and you were saying stay positive without, what did you say earlier?
Oh boy, without negative coping mechanisms. I
Yes.
have a few of those. I have a few of those. This is through life experience. That's how I know some of these things. um, so when you're dealing with a decline in mental health, please, if you try your best not to turn to negative coping mechanisms such as consuming large amounts of alcohol or consuming drugs or any substance that's going to alter your mind and your being because it may feel good then, but later on, once it wears off, you are back at square one. So you haven't really dealt with the problem. And so I think it's important to Figure out a positive mechanism for yourself, whether it's going for a walk, getting into nature, grounding yourself, using grounding techniques, putting your feet in the sand, putting your feet in the ground or the dirt, whatever environment you have. Do that. No socks. Go step right into the ground. I think that right there can help you and bring you back and center you back to where you were before you were depressed. So I
Agreed.
think, yes, indeed. And just remind yourself that this too shall pass, and the feeling that you feel is temporary. So before you grab that bottle or before you grab that substance, just think about the positive aspect before you go and do that. So
But
that's
not
what I
only
would say.
that, don't limit the idea of negative coping mechanisms to just substance because
Yes, there's so many
um
other things.
I think a big one that I've noticed, especially being in the military community, being a veteran, what I see a lot is that adrenaline, right? We replace it with adrenaline
Yes,
and
doing
we do
impulsive
dangerous
things.
things. Yes, and being impulsive, but also doing dangerous things. Like a big thing that I've noticed is especially right after deployments, people get back and it's like a thing. It's like speed. It sounds like the craziest thing, but it's speed, especially like motorcycle, sports car. It's the rush of the adrenaline. It makes you feel good in the moment, you know? And then
Hmm.
you're just being very just dangerous for lack of a better word. It's just the adrenaline because it feels so good and it makes you forget, you know? And I think that so often we just think of negative coping mechanisms as addiction, but it's everything. It's over shopping. It's what
Yes,
they call
overeating.
yes. Um just overindulging in period, I think, is one of the big
Yes.
but what do they call retail therapy? We all people always say, "Oh, I have retail therapy," but when you look at it, did you feel good after the fact? You go back and look at it. How many people are like, "I can't believe I spent all this money. Now I can't pay rent," you know?
Yeah. Because you were in a depressive state and you didn't know how to handle it. You didn't have the correct coping mechanisms to handle it without shopping until you drop.
Hmm. But I think also another big thing, and I feel like this is something that we also are becoming more aware of, is people are afraid to ask for help.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I can relate to that. I have struggled myself. That's why when I first started the podcast with you, I wanted to say that this is a safe space. People need to be able to feel comfortable to voice their concerns and voice their mental health ailments so that we can help them to become positive thinkers and whatnot, you know?
And find different replacements
Oh my gosh,
for
yes.
the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the other part of this that I want to talk about is toxic positivity. And I talk about this so much in the wellness space, especially I'm a yoga teacher as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
see this a lot in the yoga community, that toxic positivity. And there's a difference between being negative and then being accountable and holding people accountable, right? And we get to that point where or I've seen to the point where people are in this space where you're not allowed to say anything perceived as negative because you're bringing down the energy, you're bringing down the vibration, you're bringing down the frequency, but really you're holding people accountable. And then we
Mm-hmm.
get to this space of toxic positivity where all we talk about is the positive, but we don't acknowledge the negative feelings that we have. And you have to acknowledge those negative feelings, and you can't just squish everything down with positive talk.
You can't. You got to deal with that thing. You got to deal with that thing head on, or else it's going to keep coming
Exactly.
back at you.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
and I mean I do think you see both of these things in the wellness space, but I do think that you see it presents itself differently depending on the part of the wellness space that you're in. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So do you want to give us some tips for some other positive coping mechanisms for toxic positivity?
You know, this is my first time being greeted with that term. Um, so toxic positivity. Um, Let me think about that briefly.
Okay.
So, as far as maintaining positivity, I know how to maintain positivity.
How
But
do
I
you
don't
maintain
know.
positivity without it being the only thing, without
Oh,
acknowledging and without it being accountable?
yes. Okay. So first thing, thank you for that. First thing I would say, be real with yourself. Be real with yourself. Okay. Everything ain't peaches around here. Everything ain't roses around here. Okay. You have to be real with what you're going through. If you're depressed today, if you're dealing with a mental illness, it's okay. But we have to recognize, all right, we're dealing with this now. What are we going to do about it? Always have a plan B.
Exactly.
Come up with a solution. If you know you ain't feeling well, what are you going to do on days that you're not feeling well? So for me, to answer that question a little more in depth, if I know I'm having a bad day and I'm not feeling well mentally, I know I have to go ground. I know I have to go out in nature. I know I have to pray. I know that I have to get back right. I may have to read. I love this book called The Four Agreements. I always go and tag into that book. Anytime I'm feeling like, okay, I'm losing myself again, I tag back into my books. I go into my reading, and also reach out for help. That's huge. Anytime that you're dealing with mental illness, please don't feel like you have to deal with it alone. That is that's toxic positivity.
Yes.
Feeling
Agreed.
like you have to deal with your shit alone. Oh, sorry. I'm feeling
No,
like you
it's
got to
okay.
deal
We
with
don't
your stuff
censor.
alone. Okay, okay, okay.
We only censor what YouTube's going to censor.
Right, right. But yes, that's it. You don't have to deal with everything alone. That is the number one rule. You have to find a safe space because let me tell you something. Everybody, I don't care the perfect life, somebody's dealing with something. You have to be able to feel free enough to voice what you're dealing with so that you can get through it. So trust me, somebody done been through what you're going through. Somebody didn't walk through it. And in order to get through it, you got to talk through it. So I think that's
Exactly.
important as well. Communication is key.
And I think communication with yourself is key. Like you said,
Yes.
it all starts with self because we like to project and we like to look at the outside picture, but we don't look internally. And that's where we have to start with
Uh-huh.
with yourself. Have that real conversation with if you don't have that conversation with anyone else, have that conversation with yourself.
Yes.
Tell
If you're not
yourself,
real
what am
with
I
nobody else.
doing?
Yeah, exactly. You got to be real with yourself. You have to.
Exactly. So Um, if someone is feeling like they are having some mental health issues, or if they feel like they're not on the path that they need to be, do you have some suggestions on where they can start?
Yes. People come to me all the time with their stuff. As if I got it all together and I don't.
But I also think that's really important to note is that you don't have to have it all together.
Yeah. Okay. The key is not to fake it. Okay. You got to be real. Be
Exactly.
real about what you're going through. Be real about your struggles. And that's how you get your healing. But what I would say for someone that's struggling mentally, first of all, I would thank them for being able to feel safe enough to come to me because that's an honor. It really is because everybody doesn't feel safe. And then I would suggest reaching out to get therapy. People don't talk about therapy enough, especially in the Black and Brown community. Therapy is almost shunned, like it's almost frowned upon. Like, oh, you talking about your business? Yes, I'm talking about my damn business because I need help. I need healing. I would suggest reaching out, seeing what kind of therapist is in your area, free or low cost, starting off, or if you have great insurance, get you a therapist with your insurance. But I would start off there, like reaching out to a professional to get the help that you need and to get through the trauma that you've been through. That's starters. Um, and then if you're a person that doesn't have can't make the time for therapy or can't afford therapy, then journal. Pull out that journal, write down your emotions, your feelings, and what you're going through. If you gotta cry during that thing, cry. Release that. A lot of the times when you cry, it's releasing. Cry. Get that out. Journalize, get it out. And then again, I'm gonna stress this enough. Affirmations are important. You have to affirm yourself. You have to be like, okay, I am good enough. I am strong enough. I am smart enough. Because if you not affirming yourself, who the hell gonna do it? Who gonna do it?
Exactly.
Yes. You got to be real with yourself and believe in yourself. I think that's the number one key in my life. And that I want to give out to other people is you how to believe in yourself. When you're going through mental illness, believe in yourself. Believe that you're going to get out of this. Believe that it's temporary and that you're going to be okay. That's the key right there.
So true. For me, I think I always come up, I have a routine, I have my regular routine too, but I have my routine when I'm feeling mental stress that I go to.
Mhm.
It's kind of my fallback. It sounds like you kind of do the same thing. Um, because you said you go back to the four agreements, which by the way, I love the four agreements.
Yes, I've read that book so many times.
Same. It's definitely it's literally I can see it from where I'm sitting. It's sitting on my bookshelf. But
Yes. And then they have workshops too. I'm like, y'all have workshops?
yes, they do. But I
Yes.
want to add something to um that routine and what you were saying. I think it's also important to have a supportive peer group because
Oh
sometimes
my God,
you're
yes.
in a space where you don't realize you know you're not okay, but you don't really know you're not okay, right? And you need people in your life to say, you know what, you're not okay. Let's take a knee for a minute. Let's talk. You're not okay.
Hmm.
Because we're conditioned to keep going and to push ourselves and go, and we're tired. And we start thinking that I'm feeling this way because I'm tired, but really you're feeling this way because you're having a mental break. You're having
Yes.
some issues, that you need to take care of, but you're just saying, I'm just tired. I'm just exhausted. Well, it's not normal to be exhausted. Are we going to be tired? Yeah, we're lifing. Life is tiring. But it's not okay to feel exhausted. You shouldn't feel exhausted all the time. If you're feeling exhausted all the time, and you don't have the capacity because of whatever you're dealing with to tell yourself to take a knee, to tell yourself to slow down, to tell yourself to take a breath. You need people in your life that are aware that can say, you know what, let's have a conversation because I don't think you're okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think we that's one of those areas that we don't think about. We we don't realize how important that is. Just that peer group.
Yes. And thank you for bringing that to light, actually. It's so important to have a peer group. I used to go to support groups actually when I was first diagnosed with depression. I started going to support groups and it changed my life drastically. Just being around other people in my age range, even people that weren't in my age range, that was going through the same things. It made me feel like I wasn't alone. I'm like I wasn't struggling by myself. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important to have that peer support for sure.
And especially when you're going through something like depression, because the people in your
Mhm.
life may not really understand what you're doing and what you're dealing with and why are you doing these things? It doesn't make sense to them because they're not experiencing it. They're experiencing it from the outside looking in. And
Right.
it's not the same as the firsthand experience. So I can sympathize with you, but I can't really understand what you're going through because I
Mhm.
haven't experienced it.
They haven't walked through it. Mhm.
Hmm. And having people who do understand when you say something like, I just couldn't get out of bed today. I can hear you say it, but I don't get it, right? But then
Yeah.
saying it to someone who gets it, they're like, I get you. They don't even need to say anything else because you too have an understanding and an awareness that I don't have or that someone else in your life doesn't have, you know?
Yes.
And I also think that education is really big. Like
Oh my
educating the
God, it's
people
huge.
around you
Mhm.
because just talk on that a little more. You and I were talking about that earlier.
First of all, you need to be educated because if you're not educated, then what? You're ignorant. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm
actually
just
that's true
kidding.
though. That's actually true. That's actually very, very factual statement.
And the more you know, the more you grow. Okay.
But like educating the people in your life
Yes.
and telling them
I.
how to deal with when you're going through things.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. That's huge. In my personal life, I'm dealing with mental ailments. I've had to tell my family, like when I'm telling them I don't feel well, I genuinely don't feel well. And it's not that I'm physically sick, I mentally feel sick. And when I don't feel well, just try to be supportive of me, be there for me. And they are. They typically are. They're very much so supportive. But for a person that's watching this, start implementing that term more. I don't feel well. I don't feel good today. And you ain't got to go into detail about why you don't feel well, but I think it's important to communicate that you don't feel well. For sure. How are people going to know that you're not feeling well mentally if you don't communicate, you know?
Exactly. I like to say it's okay to not be okay.
It is. A lot of the times we walk around with these smiles and these filters on our damn faces, like everything peachy and knowing good and dang on well it ain't peachy. And it's okay to not be peachy. We are not perfect people at all. But the key is to be real with yourself about what you're going through. How else are you gonna get through?
And we live in a very much so fake it till you make it society,
We
especially in the
do.
US. I mean, in
Hmm.
other places we do have that too, but the US is very big on fake it till you make it. I mean, even when you go to work,
Yeah.
how many times
Imposter syndrome.
yes, but how many times? And so for the audience out there, Ashley and I met at work in an office environment. And how many times, Ashley, did you and I hear someone say living the dream and we knew they were having the worst day? And you're like, "Oh,
Oh
how are
my
you doing today?"
God.
And they're like, "Living the
Living a
dream."
dream.
Meanwhile, they're having the worst day of their lives, and we
Yes.
all know it. We're seeing it play out, but they're like, and how many times have you heard fake it till you make it?
Yes, like you
And then
literally
you
in
never make
shambles.
it.
Yes, you in shambles. Like you breaking apart right now as I speak. Like,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
it's so sad that people feel like they have to fake it all the time. Like that gets exhausting to fake it. That's why I'm so what's the word? I want to promote.
Real,
Yes, I want to promote being real. Yeah, be real with
being
yourself.
genuine.
I don't
Hmm.
walk around saying, "Oh yeah, life is peachy." No, today I'm not having a good day.
But that's good though, because, and I think it took me a really long time to just be honest and real about how I was feeling.
Hmm.
And now, and it's so funny because you also pay attention to how people react when you say things, right? And this goes back to that toxic positivity. Oh, how are you doing today? I'm not having a good day. Oh, you're just being negative. See that right there? That's the reframing.
Yeah. And everybody's not gonna have the same mindset as you. So you gotta
Hmm.
keep in mind everybody's not gonna receive that well. But
Very
that's
true.
okay. That's okay. You living in your body, okay? You have to deal with your own self. Everybody's not gonna receive you.
Exactly. And everybody doesn't have to. And that's
No.
also okay.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm learning that too, y'all.
Well, I know originally we said that we were going to make this one show, but I think like somewhere in the middle, we kind of decided to make this kind of break it up a little bit because we wanted to speak on spirituality. So Ashley will be
Yeah.
back. Um, as I said, she is my friend in real life. So, Ashley, do you have any parting words for everybody, for the audience on mental health and positivity and just day-to-day
Yes.
lifing?
First of all, thank you again for having me. This has been so much fun. And I hope
Thank you.
that whoever watches this, that they learn something, that they grow, that they continue to be great. I would say if I could give any piece of advice, oh my gosh, this is so important. Take it one moment at a time. Not one day at a time. Everybody don't got that. Take it one moment at a time, okay? If you have to take it 30 minutes, okay, I made it to 30 minutes. That's okay. Give yourself grace and know that you got this, okay? That's what I would say. One moment at a time, give yourself grace, and you got this.
Thank you so much. For anybody who wants to reach out to Ashley, check the show notes. The show notes will have how you can contact her, how you can have a conversation with her, and just keep an eye out on her. Follow her on socials. That way you can see when her book comes out. We're all excited about your book. And can you tell us one more time the name of your book?
The Queen's Handbook.
And it will be
Be
out. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yes, I was gonna say, stay tuned.
And I was just gonna say it's gonna come out sometime around October. So just keep an eye out. When it does come out, we will also feature it. I'll probably update the show notes so that we can have her book featured as well. And again, thank you for joining me, Ashley. Thank you for joining me. So Ashley's going to be doing a little series with us, our part of our Friends in Real Life series. So thank you again for joining us. And to everyone else, if you're new here, subscribe. Um, keep us subscribe so you can see what's new. Follow us on social. Send us messages. We love hearing from you. And thank you for joining us for another episode. And remember, true wellness isn't just about the body, it's about nurturing your mind, body, heart, and spirit. Keep your energy high, your spirit bright, and your soul nourished. Until next time, stay vibrant and stay well.